We haven't slept in the last 3 days. We haven't eaten. We've been crying. I wouldn't say they're ideal performing situations, but we've held each other through it and we've had absolutely nothing to lose. So what's given us energy is each other, is our determination, is our pride to prove people wrong, our pride to represent this country when all this shit is coming out about our values, about our representation as Canadians. It's not us. Like I've said time and time again, I've defended ourselves. We're not cheaters. We're damn good players. We're a damn good team. We're a damn good group, and we proved that today.
Well, it was not a typical post-game victory speech from Canadian soccer player Vanessa Gilles. She scored the game-winning goal against France at the Paris Olympics on Sunday, but the fallout from last week's spying scandal meant the team had to win to advance. Canada was docked 6 points, the equivalent of 2 wins, after members of the coaching staff were caught using a drone to spy on New Zealand's team. And now it's a do-or-die scenario when they face Colombia tomorrow. To discuss what all this means for the women's team and Canadian soccer more broadly, I'm joined by 2 former players. Claire Rustad played soccer for Canada at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. She's now a soccer analyst with CBC Sports. She's with me in studio. Good morning, Claire.
Good morning.
And Carrie Serwetnik is a former national Canadian women's soccer team player. We've reached her in Paris. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
Well, Claire, let me start with you. What goes through your mind hearing that emotional clip from Vanessa Gilles?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably to a much lesser extent, all former players have felt that way for the past week, just waking up to ongoing breaking news updates on your phone every morning, and just this impending feeling of dread approaching that match against France, followed by a profound feeling of relief when that goal went in late in the match. And it's really difficult to imagine exactly how they're feeling. I think that for them, one of the key things that prevailed was leadership on the pitch. It's a hugely experienced team. I think that was what was able to galvanize them and get them this win. A win that I think a lot of people didn't think was going to happen. I mean, France is an excellent team, but Canada did a great job of containing them, staying organized and calm for the majority of the match, which is really difficult to do in these circumstances.
Mm-hmm. And Carrie, you were at that match on Sunday against France. Mm-hmm. How would you describe the mood in the stands?
Well, I have to say it was one of the most extraordinary matches I've been to, and I've been to many. And it was just, you could see from the start, I was watching the warm-up, and I'm like, where's the coaches? Right? It seemed like the players were organizing everything, and I could just feel it when they were doing some last sprints, that they were in this game together. You can feel, sometimes I watch soccer matches, like everyone seems to be in their own little island, and they're out playing, and they're doing the best. But this seemed to be a group of, leaders that were like propelling these players into the biggest match of their life, really. And so it was so tense and absolutely thrilling when they scored that last second goal. It was a miracle, and it was just amazing. I mean, it was hard to cheer because everybody in the stands was obviously French and disappointed, but then a few of the players ran over to some of their friends and family close to us. And they were just so emotional. And I was laughing because the goalkeeper was like, we won a game. Now we have 0 points, and they're kind of making a joke of it. But it was like you could see how motivated they were. And it was amazing. Well, I feel like my focus now has changed. Okay, this incident happened. It was terrible. Like Claire said, we've woken up to new things every day. It's now now the focus is on the next match. And they have to win. They have to prove to Canadians, to get past this mark that they have on their chest now.
Just how much of a shadow, though, is this scandal casting over the Olympics for Canadian fans?
Asking me, I definitely think it hurt the entire Canadian Olympic team, right, to have this scandal happen. So I was at the rugby match yesterday. It was great to see the Canada beat France again. My friends I have French friends here, and they're like, don't ever go watch a match with Carrie again, right, because we won both these games. It's been a terrible scandal. It could go on forever, but it just kind of women's and men's team now have to wear black shirts for the next decade, right? Or do we go forward we have to host the next World Cup. We have to keep inspiring the young generation to love soccer and keep developing the teams, etc. Right? So let's change the narrative.
Well, Carrie, seeing the team play on Sunday, what was your sense of how they got through this and to get to what was a hard-fought victory?
Honestly, it was a miracle because, one of my best friends, she works for the French team, the Federation, and she said in 2012, they are still haunted playing Canada when we won the bronze match. Like, they are so emotionally affected. And I think the team, the society kind of feels like France doesn't have the mental toughness to win these big games. And so everyone just assumed France was going to win this, right? But you could see like the heart and the determination in the players. You saw that they were playing for each other. And to me, that's what the Olympics is all about, is these moments where everyone's giving it all. Like, to me, that was one of the greatest Olympic moments I've seen, like better than even when they won the final, because they had this, they know it's a humiliation. They know people back home are so disappointed, right? And to be honest, like, I'm more offended by the slide tackles people go into ankles and breaking people's toes and legs and everything than this stupid drone that happened. Obviously, it's cheating. It's bad. But I'm like more offended by these awful kind of plays that players get away with. I'd rather see more sanctions on that, actually.
Okay. And Claire, tell me about where and when you got this news about the scandal and what went through your mind?
Yeah, I actually do a podcast with Amy Walsh and Rian Wilkinson, two other former players, and we did this Olympic preview podcast, and I closed my computer and walked outside to meet Signa. We were going to go out and talk about some game prep, and that's on the street. That's where I saw it. I think the challenge for a lot of folks has been trying not to conflate our emotional feelings about the team and about the players in particular here with the fact that there was a violation to the principles of fair play. And it's hard to separate that out when we think of the sanctions that were laid down, in that this wasn't a sanction for the players, this was a sanction for the team. So that includes the coaching staff and the association. And it's really difficult because it directly affects the players, but it's really difficult to kind of tease that out a little bit, because we can at the same time feel devastated on behalf of the players and disgusted at the actions of the coaches. But we can also recognize the fact that, yeah, the principles of fair play were violated, and there have to be consequences for that. And there were direct consequences for the coaches and for the association. But it was an attempt to cheat to affect the results of a match or of a tournament. Therefore, there has to be some kind of results-based consequences. Did I think 6 points was harsh? Yeah, probably a little bit. I think 3 would have done the job. And I think, again, people are misinterpreting the consequence as, well, 3 points would have made up for the match against New Zealand. That's not the point of the point stocking. The point stocking is more broad than that. It's not specific to that one match, just because that they were caught spying on that one specific team. It's a little bit more broad than that. So I know that they've appealed it. I would be surprised. I was surprised FIFA acted so quickly in the first place. And I do hope that in the future they act as quickly in all other areas of their jurisdiction. But I think that if there's going to be a result of that appeal, it's going to have to happen quickly, because changing the number of points for any individual team in the standings affects the preparation directly of other teams, not just within their group, but within the other 2 groups. It's a 12-team tournament, so the 2 best third-place teams advance. So knowing how many points everybody else is sitting on directly affects teams in other groups. So if there's going to be a result of the appeal, it has to come down quickly.
Okay. Now, Rick West, head of TSN, published an investigation this week that the Canadian women's and men's team have been using drones to spy for years. Now, it's not CBC's reporting, so we can't verify it, but the head of Soccer Canada, Kevin Blue, said at a news conference that he had concerns as well. Let's take a listen.
You know, as I settle into this new role, the more I learn about this specific matter, the more concerned I get about a potential long-term and, deeply embedded systemic culture of this type of thing occurring, which is obviously completely unacceptable. I'm continuing to receive anecdotes about events that have occurred in the past, the potential that certain individuals may have had on the culture of this type of thing occurring.
Claire, have you ever heard about things like drone spying happening in Canadian soccer?
I mean, you have to remember, my career ended about 15 years ago. So, and I've had my head in a book. I went directly from the closing ceremonies in Beijing to my first day of medical school. So I haven't.
Okay.
But I think that investigations are going to be launched by the Canadian Soccer Association and likely FIFA as well. And I think it's would probably do us all well to just sort of wait for the results of those investigations before kind of commenting further on specifics, because we don't have any hard evidence, and the doctor in me wants to wait for evidence.
So drone spying was not even a topic of conversation even when you were playing the sport?
No, I mean, I think widely now drones are used in your own practices because they can provide really good tactical views of your own team practicing. But I don't think our team even had a drone back in 2008. No, I don't think that was a thing.
So Carrie, what about you then? Are you surprised to hear that this may not be isolated?
I mean, it was so shocking. I had no idea. I just, I've been joking that it seems like the coaching staff has headed the ball too many times to have caught out and flown a drone over Olympic practice. It's just absolutely ridiculous. We've fallen into some rabbit hole obsession with analysis. And the game is so much more complex than a few moves at a corner kick or free kick, or, if this little player is going to be injured and playing in the game. Of course, people want to know those details, but coaches can find most of the information of film or past games they played. It was just trying to get maybe some extra edge. But, the game is so, 90 minutes of running and technical prowess and, physicality. It's so much bigger than what they could have accomplished just with a drone. And that's why the players are angry, because they know what the effort they've made to become an Olympian. Some players, it's the first time, right? And so to have this experience is obviously disappointing, right? And the thing is, I think Canada looks at what other teams are doing. I'm sure we're not the only ones. I think we play in a really tricky conference, especially the men, where they've been abused for decades, going into other territories and being treated with bands playing outside their hotel at 3:00 in the morning, or had feces and bags of feces and urine thrown at them, and just incidents. You just had to look at the last Copas that we saw on television, how it was kung fu karate competition there, right, without the referees blowing the whistles. So I think Canada must look at this and say, okay, we have a drone, but it seems worse in other places, right, and maybe they feel they have to compete against this.
Okay. Well, Claire, many people have been left asking why the people involved would take this risk. How are you making sense of that?
It's a little difficult. I mean, setting aside the fact that it was actually illegal to fly a drone, an unmanned aircraft in that area in France. I agree. I mean, there's the women's soccer has had just an absolutely meteoric rise over the past few years. I mean, it's been incredible to watch. I've covered the last 4 World Cups, and it's just not even in the same category now as it was in 2011 when I first started. And a huge part of that has been the professionalism of the club game. So you can get footage legally of these players playing for their club teams because that's finally being televised. And you can get a significant amount of information from televised friendlies. It used to be that the Americans and the Canadians would get a lot of friendlies, but now, I mean, because the professionalism of the women's club game, we have international breaks, and now more and more countries have the funding to be able to play good quality friendlies. So you can get great game tape of that, and it's just the potential gain from observing practice, I just don't get. Because sure, maybe you see somebody who's injured, maybe you see them practice a specific formation. Is that appreciably going to affect how you line up against this team or how you approach it or the people that you put on the pitch? If that's the thing that's changing it, you don't have a lot of confidence in your own abilities. If you're going to make changes based on a couple of clips from practice. So, I just don't understand. I mean, ethically, it's a little bit, it's morally bankrupt, but from an actual gains perspective, it just doesn't make sense. It's just reckless.
And Claire, many of us have celebrated, the team's big wins, including the gold medal at the last Summer Games in Tokyo. How much do you think their increasing success may have also increased the pressure to win, maybe at any cost?
Well, yeah, I mean, thinking about previous results, I don't really want to talk too much about that because, like I said, there's going to be a FIFA investigation, a Canada Soccer investigation, and I don't think we can necessarily extrapolate what's happened at this tournament to the past. At this moment in time, I think what this team in particular, and I think what we all need to focus on is right now and how they're doing right now. And I think that the leaders on this team did a fantastic job against France. They will have to be equally as focused against Colombia. Colombia is a great example of a team that just wasn't on the map 8 to 10 years ago and has had significant success. They beat Germany in the World Cup last year. Part of the reason the Germans were knocked out in the group phase, which is a big shock. Got some fantastic players who are also playing at a very high level. So this is going to be another big mental test for this team. I actually think, the World Cup, there's an extra day between games. The Olympics just moves at a crazy pace. I actually think that favors the Canadians. Doesn't give them too much time to come down off of the high from that French match. I think they need to maintain that momentum. Okay, so how much of a challenge is it going to overcome a 6-point deduction? Yeah, so they have to win. Mathematically, they can't. With Australia beating Zambia in what sounds like just a bonkers match, beating them 6-5. With that win, that means they cannot get through on 1 point. So so Canada has to get through on 3 points. If they beat Colombia, they'll come second in the group, and they should get out of the group phase. Okay. And Carrie, what do you think it will mean for the players to try to get through the rest of this competition without their coach?
Like I said, they look like they had pulled together themselves, right? Essentially, we need a coach, but it's the players' leadership on the field that is really going to propel players to victory. And they showed this in the last match. It was just extraordinary kind of feeling you could see where they're just together doing anything they possibly could to score that last goal. And, they won the last Olympics. They obviously want to win it again this year. So I suppose if you want to win the Olympics, you need to win every game. And this is going to be the test they need to go forward.
Okay, last question. Carrie, what does this mean for the sport going forward?
Wins are important. Obviously, it would help erase what's happened. The drones not helping them. The coaches who were watching the drones is not helping them, right? And I think of all the boys and girls who love soccer, who look up to these players, who are learning this global game and want to play forever. And we don't want to kill that spirit with what happened in this moment, because it's so important just for people's lives to enjoy the sport and also our national pride, right? So I really hope that there isn't further consequences from what the situation that hits either the players or funding, beyond this one incident. Because let's move forward. Let's host the next World Cup. Let's support the women's national team.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you for chatting with me this morning about this. Claire Rustad played soccer for Canada at the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. She's now a soccer analyst with CBC Sports. And Carrie Serwetnik played for the Canadian women's soccer team from 1986 to 1991. Thanks again for being on the show this morning.
No problem.